But I'm here to discuss and present to you, to the media, my last report, Gaza genocide. I claim through this report that Israel's genocide in Gaza is part of an international system of complicity. And international law is very clear. States must neither aid nor assist in internationally wrongful acts of others. Instead, they might prevent, stop, and punish international crimes. These obligations, of legal obligations in the breach of peremptory norms of international law, no acts of charity, but they require immediate suspension of military, economic, and diplomatic ties with Israel until its crimes cease, and pursuing justice for the survivors by holding perpetrators and their accomplices accountable. Instead, my report exposes how influential third states, with the acquiescence of many others, have provided diplomatic, military, economic, and ideological support to Israel, entrenching rather than dismantling Israel's settler colonial apartheid, which in the past 2 years has turned genocidal. I think that no state can credibly claim to uphold international law while arming, supporting, and shielding a genocidal regime. Third states, by doing so, are breaching their duty to prevent genocide, apartheid, and all the more territorial conquest by supplying Israel with aid, arms, and political cover, despite the mounting evidence of genocidal intent. The International Court of Justice has spoken 3 times on the risk of genocide in January, March, and May 2024. This has triggered the obligation to prevent acts of genocide, to punish incitement, to stop genocide, and to punish acts of genocide. And instead, states continue to obscure, ignore, and even profit from Israel's violations of international law. Military cooperation is probably the most significant of the forms of complicity, because through arms trade and intelligence sharing, some states more than others have fueled Israel's war machine. The United States and Germany alone have provided 90% of Israel's arms imports. But at least 26 states, with Italy, my own country, first, being listed for having supplied or facilitated arms component transfer to Israel, while many others keep on buying weapons that have been tested on the Palestinians. Trade and investment have sustained and profited from Israel's economy. The United States in particular, exports of electronics, pharmaceuticals, energy minerals, and dual-use item total $474 billion US. All these has helped Israel finance its military operations. And while the European Union has been so quick in imposing sanctions against Russia for the Ukraine invasion, it continues as we speak to be the prime trade partner for Israel, while North America and several Arab states continue deepening economic ties with Israel. Only a few states have marginally reduced trade during the genocide, but indirect commercial flows persist. I have to say that one of the most sadistic aspects of this genocide is the weaponization of aid. What began with the unlawful blockade and with the attacks on UNRWA has become a full subjugation of aid to Israel and United States diktat, stripping the UN of its protective role. And these measures that member states have aided or endorsed, of course, have worsened the living conditions in Gaza. The problem, unfortunately, is deeply ideological. because Western leaders have echoed Israel's propaganda, repeating the self-defense mantra, reviving colonial tropes to cast the Palestinians as less than human, as terrorists by default. And by framing Gaza's destruction as a battle of civilization against barbarism, developed Israel erased the distinction between civilians and combatants. As I conclude these initial remarks, I want to stress, especially speaking from the roots of Mother Africa, that I'm surprised by how little too many states in the global majority, otherwise known as Global South, include across the African continent, once liberated from the colonial oppression, have done to confront this genocide. Only 14 states have joined that important decision of South Africa to launch its landmark case for genocide against Israel before the ICJ. And look, this is not just about Palestine. It is about the survival of the United Nations according to its core values and norms. From the ruins of oppression, we must forge a new multilateralism that is not for the few, but for the many, premised upon human dignity and equal rights and justice. I've heard from the General Assembly a lot of support and endorsement for my findings, including by member states who are named in the report. This includes Arab states, and this includes a state like South Africa or Colombia. So, and there are member states who were named and exposed in the report that didn't take the floor, so I take it as a positive note. While there was a crowd of member states who never show up during my interactive dialogues, and one is Italy, Hungary, Romania, who came to endorse Israel's words. And, you know, I take criticism quite positively. So as I said to Hungary and Italy, it's fine. You accuse me of making political statements, make an example so I can change this. Because what I'm telling you is to answer the findings of my report, the fact that you are supporting diplomatically, politically, militarily, and economic a state which stands today before two international courts for war crimes and crimes against humanity, and this risks to make you and your government officials complicit for genocide, and there will be national courts and possibly the ICC judging you. So it seems to me that all this fanfare is rather to distract the attention from the findings. And, you know, after 3 years of being exposed to this, I almost don't feel anymore the personal attacks because they are far away. What I hear more loudly is the cry for end of the brutality and the genocide from Gaza, end of an ethnic cleansing from the West Bank, and the cry of the people who are tired and disgusted by the ongoing genocide, including in my own country. The government is to respond to the hundreds of thousands of people who are taking the streets, to the workers who are striking, to the people who, and especially the young generation for whom this genocide is memory in the making. They have to respond about why they continue to provide and to supply Israel with weapons, not to me, to them. I mean, here I stand as a UN Special Rapporteur, so it doesn't matter if it's my government or another who criticizes me. They have to respond to the allegations that are made in the report. Full stop. What I think has been a game changer is the genocidal intent that has transformed a settler colonial apartheid regime into a genocide. And this started on October 9, where the intent to cut food, water, medicine, and fuel to the Palestinians as human animals, as a nation responsible, as the Amalek, the natural enemy of the Israelis, was enforced. And so for me, the 9th of October 2023 was a game changer. So, but to answer your question, I've been the first UN expert, but again, UN persona to receive sanctions by any state, in all the more in my case, but one of the most powerful states in the international community, which, as I said today to member states, is an affront to the United Nations itself, its principles, its soul, its very soul. And I'm surprised that since July, no concrete steps other than declarations and condemnations, which frankly I appreciate very much, but do not resolve the problem. So the sanctions have not been lifted, and they are utterly impairing financially, practically. The hurdles on me are numerous, but again, I prefer discussing this with member states and not with the media, because I don't want to occupy this space to distract the attention from the content of my mandate, which is the genocide in Palestine, which is spotting light on the genocide in Palestine. As per the travel restrictions, I mean, the travel ban is the first consequence of the sanctions that, again, are unlawful, are against the UN Charter, are against the UN Convention on Privileges and Immunities. And you know, as a UN expert, I work pro bono with a lot of sacrifice and a lot of discipline, because I'm constantly under scrutiny. So I pay extra care and attention to make sure that the findings, the facts reported in my report are solid, are corroborated, are verified. All member states have been, over 60 states have been provided my report 1 week in advance to provide comments. Yes, I understand states have complained that they were not provided enough time. I would like to have them during 1 day of my life, having to deal with the sanctions and the ongoing genocide and all the rest. So they should do their job while I do mine diligently. But I do that operations of trust. I trust the United Nations, and I expect that they uphold the Convention on Privileges and Immunities. There is a travel ban, as I said, and there are financial penalties imposed on me and anyone who has any economic dealing with me, including my own family. I've applied to come to the United States, and frankly, there is not much to say other than it was cumbersome, and eventually time was such where I said that it's, frankly, I'm not there to fight with the United States over my appearance in New York. I was happy to be in South Africa among people who deserve my presence.